Dirt Trax is sponsored by Can-Am. We're built for this. Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. And by Yamaha, conquer outdoors.
You know what makes me happy? When great companies push their products to new levels and bring us new technology. That really makes me happy. And that's exactly what Yamaha has done in 2019. Complete transparency now, the original Wolverine was a good side-by-side, but it was a bit of a letdown because it really didn't bring us anything new, just the same power plant and features we'd seen in other models. For 2019 though, Yamaha brings us a truly all-new Wolverine X2. So what is an X2 and what makes it different from the previous Wolverine? Well, for starters, this vehicle addresses all the things we didn't like about the original Wolverine and adds most of the things we thought we were going to get with that model but didn't. I don't think it's going to come as any surprise to find out that this new Wolverine is packing Yamaha's 847cc parallel twin under the hood. This motor was released last year in the Wolverine X4, and it definitely is the motor we've been waiting for to replace the long-in-the-tooth 700 single. In the X4, this engine produces somewhere in the neighborhood of 69 horsepower, which is nothing to scoff at, and we expect it'll be producing very similar power in the X2, as the engine itself is essentially the same. It's got loads of bottom end and it pulls strong on top. It is speed limited though, and it could definitely go faster than it's currently being allowed to go. Connected to that parallel twin motor is an all-new Ultramatic CVT system that Yamaha claims runs cooler and is more durable than the previous version, and it better be. The X2 is designed to be highly trailable and highly maneuverable. Compared to the old Wolverine, it's got a wheelbase that's just under 2 inches shorter and it's just over 1.5 inches narrower. It's just under 60 inches wide and it's designed to have a crazy tight turning radius. The R-Spec models come standard with KYB fully adjustable piggyback shocks. Total travel is around 9 inches front and rear, so by no means class leading, but when paired with those stellar shocks, the ride can be set up as plush or as firm as you need it to be.
As you walk around, you'll notice a lot of upgrades to the Wolverine X2. We've got a tilt steering wheel here, and we've also incorporated a sliding driver's side seat with a single handle lever. You'll notice we also have the higher doors. This keeps the mud and the terrain out of the cabin, keeps you dry and comfortable. The integrated sun top. This one again is a special edition, so you'll see the special stitching and the color match seats. One of the things we heard over and over again from customers when we were talking to them in the field was just the noise of the current vehicles is just too loud. So we focused really heavily on shielding the engine, putting a really big exhaust system on it so that it really stays quiet. See that we actually have a dumping cargo box on the new Wolverine X2. This is actually bigger, physical inside dimensions than the current Wolverine 708, which is nice. And of course, the dumping function adds to its overall versatility. You'll notice also the over fenders, both front and rear on the special edition model, and then the single lever tailgate. Very nice feature. Again, allows you to utilize that cargo bed and the maximum capability of it.
The cargo bed on the new Wolverine can carry up to 600 pounds, which is double what the old one can carry. And the vehicle can now tow up to 2,000 pounds, which is a 500-pound increase. The Wolverine X2 is an incredibly impressive new model for Yamaha, and it's got everything it needs to be a strong contender in its class. But for 2019, Yamaha is introducing another new piece of technology that's useful both inside and outside your vehicle.
The other very cool thing is we have the new Adventure Pro system. So we can track engine performance, we can track transmission position, the four-wheel drive system, the engine RPMs, the GPS system, the speed of the vehicle, and it actually allows you to post to the different social media sites out there.
The Adventure Pro is essentially an Android-based GPS-enabled tablet fully wired into your vehicle and can display all the vehicle data you could ever possibly need or imagine. But more than that, it's a fully functional GPS system with integrated mapping. It also features a full Android operating system, so it's a 100% functional tablet computer. It also has a built-in camera for capturing memories out on the trail. Yamaha's all-new 2019 Wolverine X2 is the model I think many of us have been waiting for from Yamaha. And while we only got a short opportunity to actually test it at the press intro, our initial impressions are excellent. Stay tuned to Dirt Trax TV this season for a full test ride on the Wolverine X2 and a more in-depth look at the Adventure Pro system from Yamaha.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more. Closed captioning of Dirt Trax is sponsored by MBRP Power Sports, race-inspired performance.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a really big and really pleasant surprise when the invite to attend Suzuki's 2019 KingQuad press intro came across the desk here at Dirt Trax. It had been a long time since Suzuki did an official press intro for any of their ATVs, and like us, we knew many of you were waiting for something new from the company who can legitimately boast that they were the first on four wheels. Suzuki has been nearly invisible in the ATV industry for the better part of 10 years. No important new developments other than very minor changes and updates to existing models, and nearly zero presence in the media. This was largely due to a pretty substantial downturn in ATV sales over the past decade, and combined with the fact that Suzuki didn't and still doesn't produce side-by-sides of any kind.
It's been a while since there's been some significant changes to the KingQuad, and we began to hear from both our dealers and the consumers is there were people that absolutely loved their KingQuads, and they were waiting for a new KingQuad before they bought. So when they decided to update the KingQuad, obviously it starts with style because style brings a lot of attention, but they had to do it in a careful way to maintain the iconic KingQuad look, in two significant areas. One was the chassis. They were able to strengthen the main frame by making the main tubes thicker. They redesigned and strengthened the brackets, especially for the rear suspension.
The changes to the KingQuad's chassis allowed for a 130-pound increase in towing capacity to a total of 1,030 pounds.
New shock absorbers that are gas charged have better damping characteristics. They recalibrated the suspension so it would turn a little bit easier. And they made a pretty significant change on the power steering models where the new electronic power steering motor has about 30% more capacity, easy steering, low effort at low speeds, but then it offers good feedback at higher speeds. Brakes were updated with different lever ratios, both front and rear, new brake pad material. There's been refinement of the EFI tuning. The power band is a stronger overall power band. It has a modest boost in power, but KingQuad never really was lacking in top-end performance. And then they also adjusted the CVT tuning. So higher engine RPM, especially when you're taking off, so acceleration is smoother, stronger, especially out of the hole.
So there's a lot of new improvements on the inside and the outside of the 2019 KingQuad. But at the end of the day, the question that really matters is, how does it work? And luckily for us, we got a pretty good opportunity to test the new KingQuad 750 at the press intro and have developed some pretty strong opinions. First, it definitely looks tough. Like Honda, Suzuki seems to have taken a few cues from its North American competition and gone with more edgy bodywork with tall fenders and a more aggressive front-end profile. Overall, the look of this ATV still screams KingQuad, so there won't ever be a question about what you're riding. But where the old model was starting to look pretty outdated, this new model looks fresh and tough. In terms of handling and ride quality, the changes made for 2019 are definitely an improvement. The ride is more plush, though not on the same level as other ATVs in this class. Handling is more linear in two-wheel drive, but again, not as light and predictable as others. In 4x4, we found the power steering had difficulty overcoming the extra traction of the front end. The steering was still very heavy, but we think this could be fixed with a simple retune of the power steering system when 4x4 is selected. Bottom line here, we look at Suzuki much like we look at Honda because they are very similar in their strengths and weaknesses. The Suzuki KingQuad has always been an ATV you could rely on. Durability and longevity were its strongest traits. The 750 is decently powerful and would be good competition for a Honda Rincon. Ride and handling are on par with Honda's new Rubicon, but in this case you get both of those things in one package, and the Suzuki has a really well thought of CVT transmission, something the Honda does not offer. In our opinion, the 2019 KingQuad is less of an actual new model or new vehicle than it is an updated model. Either way, it's a welcome improvement. The million-dollar question today is this: is the 2019 KingQuad worth upgrading to if you're a current KingQuad owner? And is it worth switching to if you own a competitive model? The answer, in my opinion, is pretty straightforward. If you own an older KingQuad, yes, this new model is definitely an improvement and is tangibly better than the older model. It's worth upgrading to. But if you're currently riding a competitive vehicle, you need to figure out your priorities before you decide on a KingQuad.
They wanted something better. So they wanted something that could work for them during the week, and then in the weekend they could still recreate with it. It's just a fantastic ATV.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Shock Strap. Start strapped, stay strapped.
Last week I got into the front diff and figured out the problems from last season. Now that we're running a freshly rebuilt front diff with a locker, I've got one more area of concern that I'd like to look at prior to giving you the full cost breakdown that I've been promising. And the final piece to the puzzle is bomb-proof axles. While our current setup wasn't bad, we want to have full trust in the axles on the rig, and Rhino brand axles have a reputation to take a beating and continue to come back for more. The Rhino brand axles are tested up to 175 miles per hour, feature a proprietary heat treatment, are guaranteed to fit, and come with a minimum 12-month warranty. But possibly just as good as the specs are the thousands of reviews from riders who continually beat their axles and push the limits week after week. I think that this is going to be the answer, along with the new diff and locker, to really propel the racer forwards and ensure we don't just spin the front wheels, but keep them spinning run after run. Now, I've been asked many times for a complete breakdown of the cost to build this thing, and I know at the start we told you that we were doing it on a budget, but from there, we've been a little vague. So let me break everything down for you. Up front, the 2008 Outlander 800 XT ran us $3,500. From stock form, we tore the Audi down to the frame and stiffened it between the engine and the front diff. After this, we made a visit to Mr. RPM in North Carolina, where the motor was our focus, choosing to install a full 860 kit, along with Maverick heads, solid motor mounts, Mr. RPM valve covers and water necks, new main bearings, throttle body boring, and a reflashed ECU. We ended up with over 60% greater power than a stock 800 at 79.5 horse at the rear wheels. And those are real dyno numbers. That brings our total to $5,275. Add to this the full HMF exhaust and power tuner, and we go up another grand to just shy of $6,300. Keeping the Mud Racer breathing is a $230 Warrior Riser kit from snorkelYourATV.com, and that brings our total to $6,505. Putting the power to the ground, we have a Mud & Wheels XMR Torque Series rear diff that's bulletproof and runs about $1,000. Up front, we have a fully rebuilt stock diff with a torque locker from Can-Am Parts Guy, and those together add another $1,000. And when we link the Rhino axles I installed today at $800, total cost goes up to $9,305. Super ATV hooked us up with high clearance adjustable front A-arms, as well as the 29.5 Assassinators, which cost us $1,135 total. Adding an aggressive and mud race tuned ride are Elka Stage 2 shocks out back and Stage 1s up front. Shocks came in at $1,235, total build cost up to now, $11,675. Rubber Down Customs did a lot of cool stuff for us, and while it looks very custom, the truth is they'll do it all for you too. The custom cut DT logo front tilting rad relocate, along with the rear differential stiffener and the insanely cool 14-inch Swamp Locks Crush Lock rims totaled $990. But they also added huge to the cool factor and immensely to the functionality. Full Throttle Power Sports out of Western Canada sent us a pair of their race version Gen 1 footwells at $350. Up at the handlebars, Checo Racing strengthened the steering stem for $100, and the crew at Rock Speed Effects gave us the finishing touches with custom cut and stitched handguards with aluminum mounts, aluminum taper bars and riser, and a set of their amazing foot pegs to keep us planted for a total from them of $450, bringing the entire build to $13,565. While you may think that that's a big investment, if you consider that you might already have a good shape Outlander with a solid front diff in it already, you can take your investment down to about $9,000. Then consider the fact that even a brand new mud-specific ATV is going to need about $5,000 worth of the stuff we put into this one to keep it competitive in this style class. Well, now you're down to about $4,000. And to me, that's an investment that I'd make time and time again. The fun with the mud build isn't over yet. In only a few weeks, we'll be taking the Mud Racer to a local race event to work out any kinks, followed by a return to Smokin' Spurs later this year to see if we can't get us a podium. And all this and more coming your way this season on Dirt Trax.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Argo. Go anywhere.
The word havoc is defined as widespread destruction, to lay waste to devastate. I think it's pretty clear what Textron Off Road was trying to say with their new Havoc X. They were coming, and the competition didn't stand a chance. But the real question is, will the Havoc devastate the competition and lay waste to the sport utility side-by-side class? At first glance, the Havoc X looks a lot like a tricked-out version of Textron Off Road's more utility-focused Stampede model, which we tested last season and came up with results that we can only describe as pleasantly surprising. But the Havoc is actually much more than just a Stampede on steroids. It's a vehicle designed and built to dominate the sport utility segment of the industry, a segment that is currently ruled, in our opinion, by Polaris's General, but getting more crowded with new vehicles like Yamaha's Wolverine X2. At the end of the day, the Havoc is built off of a Stampede chassis though, but this is a really good thing, because this chassis has proven to be extremely tough and durable. Instead of the Stampede's 850 under the hood though, the Havoc is powered by a 957cc twin that pumps out 100 horsepower. Does this combination sound familiar? It should. These specs are nearly identical to the General. Clearly Textron came to play. So how does this motor work? How does it feel? Surprising and pretty impressive. Power delivery is smooth and the throttle is easy to modulate at lower speeds. It doesn't feel quite as refined as Polaris's 100 horsepower twin does, but it's not that far off. When you stand on it though, it'll perk up your morning for sure. This engine growls to life with one of the most pleasing exhaust notes I've ever heard. And when the clutches start to grab Kevlar, the Havoc literally launches forward, breaking the rear tires free anytime, anywhere, on command. Top speed is right around 70 miles per hour indicated, which is more than fast enough for this vehicle. Clutching is spot on with fast back shifts and hard up shifts that really make the vehicle feel light and fun when you push it. So the motor's a winner, that much is certain. But what about the chassis and suspension? Does this setup have what it takes to give a General or a Wolverine X2 a solid run for its money? If you look only at the specs, definitely. 12.8 and 12.9 inches of front and rear travel damped by a massive set of adjustable 2.5-inch King piggyback shocks, 13 inches of ground clearance, 64-inch width. It bests the General in every way. On the trail, the Havoc feels big though. The wheels stick out quite a bit farther than the body, but you can't see them, so you end up contacting obstacles you think you're going to miss. Travel is plush and feels really deep on big hits or jumps. Small stuff is easily handled as well. Power steering setup is tuned just a little too light in our opinion, and the effort required to turn those awesome 28 by 10 inch ITP Ultracross tires is more than we'd like, especially in 4x4. Handling is by no means bad, it's just not great, especially when combined with the only actual negative we can find with the vehicle overall. The seating position inside the Havoc can only be described as weird. In fact, that's exactly how every one of our testers described it. The seat is firm with a little bit of bolstering, but not nearly enough. It sits more laid back than the seats in a Stampede, but nowhere near far enough to be as sporty feeling as a General. The seat doesn't adjust far enough back, so I feel like I'm cramped up into the steering wheel. But my knees are also too bent, and they feel like they're way too close to the dashboard. The seating position is a mix of upright utility and semi-laid back sport, but it's not the right mix. There's lots of space behind the Havoc seat, so we think it'd be pretty easy and definitely important for Textron to spend just a bit more time on rider ergonomics. Now with all that said, the interior of the Havoc is definitely a big improvement over the Stampede or other pre-Textron side-by-sides. The steering wheel is really nice, the gauge is pretty decent, and the shifter feels tight and smooth. The Havoc is of course not meant to be a pure sport side-by-side. It's meant to be a true sport utility side-by-side that can work as hard as it can play. And this is where it really has an edge over the General. The dumping cargo box on the Havoc is huge and can haul 1,200 pounds. This vehicle's rated to tow a full 2,000 pounds as well. Behind the seats, you'll find this extra cargo space that's unique to Textron Havoc and Stampede models. It's an excellent spot to store all kinds of gear that you don't want to get messed up in the box. Textron also makes a full line of accessories to help you maximize the usefulness of this space. Many of our testers have stated that they think the Havoc is one of the toughest looking side-by-sides they've ever seen, and I can't disagree. The styling of this vehicle is both unique and appealing, and it's complemented perfectly by the color scheme. Its wide stance and mean fascia let everybody know you mean business, especially when you turn the key and they hear that awesome exhaust note. The Havoc was a vehicle I honestly couldn't wait to get my hands on. It held a strange intrigue for me, something to do with the impressive specs but mostly unknown performance. After testing it and putting it through its paces though, I'm not the slightest bit disappointed. This vehicle puts a grin on my face every time I drive it. It also gets tons of attention and it feels like it's built like a tank. Is it going to devastate the competition? That remains to be seen. What I do know is that the Havoc X is a formidable contender in the sport ute category and is a vehicle that seriously deserves your attention.
Dirt Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. Can-Am, we're built for this. And by Textron Off Road, power, performance, and precision engineering.
Make sure you click to subscribe for even more great content on our YouTube channel. Travel stories, test rides, modifications, you name it, we've got it.